Movie recastings happen all the time, and while you would imagine this would be one hell of a hurdle for said film to overcome, recent years have actually seen plenty of successful transitions from one actor to another. So I am Gareth here from WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 recent movie recasts that worked perfectly. Number 10, KATHRYN Newton as Cassie Lang, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. When Emma Thurman took over as Cassie Lang from Abby Ryder Forreston for Avengers Endgame, it was easy to see why. There had been a huge 5-year gap since the last time she was on screen, and so when Scott Lang returned home from his involuntary quantum sabbatical, it wouldn't have made sense to find Cassie the same age. What was more questionable was that Marvel Studios then recast the character again, with KATHRYN Newton bringing Ant-Man's daughter to life in Quantumania. The studio rightly came under scrutiny for how the news was delivered to Thurman. Reportedly, she found out at the same time as everyone else. But it was ultimately a strong decision, to be honest. Cassie was to assume a much different role in the threequel, and as a teenager in the MCU, was required to be independent, awkward, sarcastic, and effortlessly charming. So pretty much me, if I was all those things. Fortunately, KATHRYN Newton brought all of this and even more to the role. This recast also seemed to signal that Cassie was set for a much bigger role in the MCU going forward, which seems as though it is barreling right towards a young Avengers team-up. Simply put, Newton is a bigger name with more experience to bring to the franchise than Thurman, though you do have to question whether Marvel couldn't have just cast KATHRYN Newton in Endgame to begin with. A little bit odd. Number 9, HUCK MILNER as PARR, Incredibles 2. From Ant-Man and the Wasp to Avengers Endgame, Cassie Lang was recast because the character grew up, but the actor didn't. In the case of Incredibles 2, however, the exact opposite was true for Dash, as Spencer Fox had aged 14 years between movies, while for the character it had just been a mere few seconds. Naturally, in this time, the lad's voice had, let's say, changed, making it impossible for him to reprise his role as Dash. Instead, another young man was brought into the Pixar family in HUCK MILNER, in what was actually his big screen acting debut. Not a bad start indeed. Though the young PARR family member was ultimately replaced without many even realizing. Realistically, isn't this the best case scenario for any recast voice actor? So good and consistent you didn't even spot the damn change. Number 8, Jonathan Groff as Agent Smith, The Matrix Resurrections. After so many years, Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss returned as Neo and Trinity respectively. And while Agent Smith also returned, Hugo Weaving was unable to commit to the role. Unfortunately, The Matrix Resurrections posed a scheduling conflict for the Lord of the Rings actor. Lawrence Fishburne was also unable to return as Morpheus. But while the movie worked around so that the character Yahya Abdul-Mateen II played was technically different, Jonathan Groff was brought in as a straight swap to replace Weaving. This was always going to be a difficult role for the Frozen actor, as Agent Smith was such a big part of the original movies and has become something of an iconic character. But they couldn't have brought in anybody better, to be honest. There was bound to be a great amount of scrutiny of Groff's performance, arguably more so than just about any other, due to the inevitable comparison to the mighty Weaving. However, his charismatic performance actually allowed Smith to be a noteworthy plus among a sea of very mixed reviews for the return to the Matrix franchise. Now I've got a question for you. Who is your favorite big screen antagonist of all time? Is it Agent Smith or possibly even somebody else? Let me know in the comment section down below. Number 7, Chris Evans as Buzz Lightyear. Lightyear. No one could have called it even just a few years ago. But after Toy Story 4 robbed the franchise of what would have been the perfect trilogy ending, followed by Lightyear failing to capture the imagination of audiences and the announcement of a Toy Story 5, you can now seemingly class this franchise as one of the many that has overstayed its welcome. I know, what a crazy world. With the latest release, Lightyear underperformed both critically and commercially, with many people being unhappy that the titular voice had been recast. It was a tough sell to bring anyone in to voice Buzz Lightyear instead of Tim Bloody Allen, particularly as this was supposedly the movie from which the famous toy was based. But there was some sound logic behind it. Namely, director Angus MacLane looked at the casting as if he were making a live-action Buzz Lightyear, and it's hard to argue that Chris Evans wouldn't be perfect. I mean, look at that jaw. Since Lightyear wasn't technically a prequel, the movie wasn't bound to use Tim Allen's voice. And while it's understandable that fans would be confused and even frustrated about the actor's absence, you cannot deny the talent and charisma that Chris Evans brought to the role. Number 6, Brian Hull as Dracula, Hotel Transylvania Transformania. Adam Sandler's career has been turbulent and inconsistent to say the least. The SNL legend had an insane start to his Hollywood run, with the likes of Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, The Waterboy, and Big Daddy releasing over a span of just 4 years. Then later came the lows of Jack and Jill, Grown Ups, and many more, before a renaissance of more dramatic roles in recent years. That and the actor's new deal with Netflix may have been the main reasons behind his leaving the Hotel Transylvania franchise after 3 movies. And in his place came Brian Hull. Rather than a typical voice actor, Hull was known for his Disney impressions on YouTube, and went viral with his covers of Let It Go and Hello. The power of YouTube, I say. I know, I'm on it right now. The fact that he was able to then go on to replace Adam Sandler in Hotel Transylvania 4 is a wonderful story, and directors Jennifer Klusker and Derek Dreiman couldn't have been happier with his work with their slightly different take on the iconic character. Since, spoilers, Dracula was transformed into a human during the events of the movie, it gave the opportunity to go in a slightly different direction. It couldn't have been an easy task to step into the shoes of one such as Adam Sandler, but it's hard to imagine anyone doing it as well as Brian Hull did. Number 5, Campbell Scott as Louis Dodgson, Jurassic World Dominion. Jurassic Park is one of the most famous movies in the history of, well, movies. But there are still moments that are easy for fans to forget. Unless you were a fan of Michael Crichton's novel, you possibly wouldn't have even recognized the name Louis Dodgson before Jurassic World Dominion came out. Essentially, Dodgson ran a competing bioengineering company to InGen, and was a master of industrial espionage. In short, in the original movie, Dodgson was the guy who gave Dennis Nedry the can of shaving foam, and asked him to steal dinosaur embryos from Jurassic Park. And that all worked out really well for him, didn't it? And along with the original Big Three returning in 2022 for Dominion, so too did Louis Dodgson. We got a Dodgson over here. Back in 1993, the villain was played by Cameron Thor, an actor who hasn't exactly had a prolific career ever since, with his last credit on IMDb coming a full decade ago. Hell, even I've had one since then. So for the 6th movie in the franchise, the character was portrayed instead by Campbell Scott. In the same way as Kathryn Newton's Cassie Lang, Scott brought more experience and a higher profile to the character in what was going to be a bigger role than ever before, and he portrayed the villain as detestable as he needed to be. Number 4, Ross Marquand as Red Skull, Avengers Infinity War. There were some genuinely shocking moments throughout Avengers Infinity War, but arguably none so jaw-dropping as the return of the Red Skull. The Captain America villain had been transported to Vormir at the end of the first Avenger, and now acted as something of a gatekeeper to the Soul Stone. Absolutely no one saw that coming, including myself. I was stunned. Now, he wasn't in the movie for too long, though he did return in Avengers Endgame, but so good was the actor's performance that many fans didn't even realize it wasn't that man again, Hugo Weaving. The Lord of the Rings actor portrayed the Red Skull way back in 2011, but wasn't willing to reprise his role 8 years later. Like Dave Bautista for Guardians of the Galaxy and Jennifer Lawrence for the X-Men movies, Weaving made no secret of the fact he hated his time sat in the makeup chair getting all Red Scully. Instead, in came Ross Marquand, probably best known for his role as Aaron on The Walking Dead. And the brilliant actor did not miss a damn beat. Number 3, Grace Caroline Currey as superhero Mary, Shazam! Fury of the Gods. The entire premise of Shazam as a character called for 2 different actors to portray the role. The superhero is a kid who bulks up after saying the magic word, and so for this you have Asher Angel playing protagonist Billy Batson in his normal form, and Zachary Levi in his superhero form. The same principle applied to the rest of Billy's family when he powered them up at the end of the first movie. Naturally, the kids wouldn't have played their biggest superhero forms, it would have been a bit weird. However, there was actually one exception in the sequel. In Shazam, Mary was played by Grace Caroline Currey until she transformed into Michelle Borth. At this time, Mary was roughly 17 or 18, and so by the time of Fury of the Gods was around 20. While it makes sense for the kids to have adults playing their alter egos, there would have been no reason for the already grown-up Mary to change. In the sequel, she was no longer a kid, and so Super Mary was also played by Currey, and allowing the actress to play both versions just made perfect sense. Number 2, Mads Mikkelsen as Gellert Grindelwald, Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. The first new Wizarding World movie since the Deathly Hallows Part 2 released in 2015, and the fantastic sky seemed the limit. But numerous issues both on and off the screen have now seen it crash through the floor rather than the ceiling. One of the most contentious creative decisions was the casting of Johnny Depp as Gellert Grindelwald. This was never exactly the most popular casting in the world, and the actor was eventually axed by Warner Bros. others in favor of Mads Mikkelsen. The Danish actor has experience with terrifying or inspiring villains thanks to his time playing Hannibal Lecter, and was the perfect choice to replace Depp. Honestly, he was always the perfect choice and should have been in the role from the beginning, really. The Secrets of Dumbledore was a bit of a train wreck of a movie, but Mikkelsen was still the one shining star. Number 1. Ryan Reynolds as Juggernaut, Deadpool 2. By the time Fox's X-Men franchise limped over the finish line with Dark Phoenix and New Mutants, remember those? The universe's timeline was a bit all over the place. One property that seemed to stay outside of this timeline chaos, however, was Deadpool. The fourth wall-breaking merc with the mouth knew of both James McAvoy and Patrick Stewart's versions of Professor X. And while the events of his movies definitely took place in the present, the young X-Men of the past still somehow showed their faces. Yep, I'm still trying to wrap my head around all that. So, Deadpool broke all the rules. And this allowed for the sequel to recast one key mutant to be far superior than he was before. Simply put, Vinnie Jones' take on the Juggernaut just didn't work, really, did it? Bitch. However, the character was way better in Deadpool 2. This time he was played by Ryan Reynolds himself, and was actually funny on purpose, and what a world. Now yes, there is still a bit of room for improvements, admittedly, but compared to the Last Stand's iteration, it is literally night and day. And that's our list. Know of any other recent movie recasts that worked perfectly? Well, fire them in the comment section down below and let me know all about them. Also, if you like this sort of stuff, then please head on over to whatculture.com and find some more fantastic articles just like the one this video you're watching right this second is based on. I've been Gareth from whatculture.com. Cheers for watching this particular video right now, and have yourself the best of days. Bye bye!